The bridge of the USS Valiant hummed with quiet activity as Captain Amy Davis studied the message on her screen for the third time. Her face grew more worried with each reading. "Captain, we've verified the signal. It's definitely from Ambassador Miller's team," said Lisa Ward from her communications station. Her voice was steady, but her eyes showed fear. Captain Davis stood up and walked to the large viewing window. Stars stretched out before her like diamonds on black cloth. Somewhere, out there, Earth's first diplomatic mission to the Galactic Concord was in danger. "Play the message again," she ordered. Ambassador Frank Miller's face appeared on the main screen. His normally neat appearance was disheveled, and a thin line of blood ran from his temple. "This is Ambassador Miller to any Earth vessel. The Zeraxians have taken us hostage. Negotiations have failed. They've declared humans too unpredictable and dangerous to join galactic society. They plan to make an example of us. Send help immediately. Coordinates attached." The message cut off abruptly. "How long will it take us to reach those coordinates?" Captain Davis asked. Lieutenant John Carter at Tactical quickly calculated the distance. 6 hours at maximum speed, Captain." Davis nodded and touched the comm on her wrist. "Bridge to engineering. Pete, I need everything you've got from the engines." "Already on it, Captain," Engineer Pete Harrison replied. "I can squeeze out a bit more. Maybe cut our arrival to 5 hours. "Do it," she ordered before turning to Science Officer Olivia Grant. "What do we know about these Zeraxians?" Officer Grant brought up information on her screen. "They're the dominant military power in the Galactic Concord. Reptilian species, highly organized. They've controlled most trade routes for the past 300 years. And..." She paused, looking troubled. "And what?" Davis prompted. "They've been watching Earth for centuries. Our wars, our weapons development. They fear us because we advance quickly and adapt even faster." Captain Davis thought for a moment. The Valiant was Earth's newest and most advanced warship, but they were just one vessel against an entire empire. The captain opened a secure channel to Earth Command. Admiral Wilson's stern face appeared on her private screen. "We've received the same distress call, Captain," the Admiral said before she could speak. "The Security Council has made its decision. You are authorized to take all necessary action to recover our people." Davis raised an eyebrow. "All necessary action, sir?" "The Zeraxians need to learn that humans don't abandon their own," the Admiral said firmly. "This will be humanity's first military intervention in galactic affairs. Make it count." "Understood, sir." The call ended and Captain Davis turned to her crew. Their faces showed a mix of determination and anxiety. "Set course for the Zeraxian Central System," she ordered. "And prep the Ghost Drive." Security Chief Greg Martinez looked up sharply. "The Ghost Drive isn't fully tested, Captain." "It's tested. Enough," Davis replied. "We need the element of surprise." The crew moved with purpose as the Valiant prepared for battle. In the engine room, Pete Harrison worked to maximize the ship's unique technologies. The adaptive shield harmonics would confuse Zeraxian sensors, and the kinetic weapons would be unexpected. Most galactic powers had abandoned physical projectiles centuries ago in favor of energy weapons. In her quarters, Captain Davis recorded a personal log. "We're about to announce humanity's presence to the galaxy in a way no one expected. Earth joined the galactic community seeking peace, but the Zeraxians have mistaken our diplomatic approach for weakness. They'll soon learn their error. The Valiant was built for exploration, but she can fight when needed. And humans?" She paused, looking at a photo of Earth on her desk. Lieutenant John Carter hunched over his tactical station, eyes fixed on the holographic display of Zeraxian fleet movements. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the cool air on the bridge. "Their ships are faster than ours in straight lines," he said to no one in particular, "but their turn rate is poor. They rely on overwhelming firepower, not maneuverability." Captain Davis nodded as she studied her own display. "Any weaknesses we can exploit?" "Yes," Carter replied, looking up with a small smile. "They're predictable. Their battle formations haven't changed in 50 years. They don't adapt quickly." Across the bridge, Science Officer Olivia Grant waved to get the captain's attention. "I found something interesting in their communications, Captain. The Zeraxians have been watching Earth's wars for centuries. They're especially afraid of how Quickly, humans went from muskets to nuclear weapons. So they fear our potential, Davis said thoughtfully. More than that, Grant continued, her voice growing excited. They don't understand why we still use physical weapons at all. Every other species abandoned kinetic weapons once they developed energy-based ones. Davis smiled. But we kept both. Exactly, Grant nodded. They're not prepared for railguns or missiles. Their shields are optimized against lasers and plasma weapons. In engineering, Pete Harrison crawled through a narrow maintenance tube, making final adjustments to the ship's shield harmonics. His voice came through the bridge speakers. Captain, I've modified our shields to change frequency every 3 seconds. Should confuse their targeting systems. Good work, Pete, Davis replied. What about our ghost drive? Will it hold until we reach their home system? There was a pause before Harrison answered. It'll get us there, but we'll need 24 hours to recharge it for the trip home. Davis exchanged looks with Security Chief Martinez. That would be cutting it close. At the communication station, Lisa Ward removed her headset, her face pale. Captain, I've been monitoring their internal communications. They're planning a public execution of our diplomats in less than 12 hours. They want to show the galaxy that humans aren't special. The mood on the bridge darkened. Captain Davis stood and walked slowly around the command center, looking at each crew member in turn. I know what you're all thinking, she said quietly. One ship against their entire fleet is suicide. But the Valiant isn't just any ship, and we aren't just any crew. She touched a control, bringing up an image of the diplomatic team on the main screen. Ambassador Miller and 5 other humans, all looking proud in their formal uniforms. The Xeraxians think humans are dangerous, Davis continued. Let's show them how right they are when our people are threatened. Security Chief Martinez cleared his throat. I've assembled a rescue team, Captain. Small and fast. While the Valiant distracts their fleet, we can slip in and extract our people. Good. Davis nodded. Start prep for insertion. The ship shuddered slightly as it traveled through subspace using the experimental ghost drive technology. The normal stars were replaced by streaks of blue light outside the viewports. In her private quarters, Captain Davis studied the limited information they had on Xeraxian ships. Their technology was advanced, but it had developed along a single path for centuries. They had perfected energy weapons and shields, but had blind spots. Humans, in their messy and chaotic way, had developed multiple technologies in parallel. The Xeraxians relied heavily on their battle computers, which struggled with unpredictable variables. And humans, Davis thought with a grim smile, were nothing, if not unpredictable. A soft chime indicated they were approaching their destination. Davis returned to the bridge where her crew waited at their stations, tense but ready. 1 minute to emergence, Lieutenant Carter announced. Weapons ready, confirmed the weapons officer. Shields at maximum, Harrison reported from engineering. Captain, Davis took her command chair and strapped in. The Xeraxians think they know humans from studying our history, she said calmly. But they've never actually faced us in battle. Let's make this first impression count. The blue streaks outside the viewports intensified. Ghost drive disengaging in 3, 2, 1. The USS Valiant burst into normal space directly in the heart of Xeraxian territory, weapons hot and ready to announce humanity's arrival to the galaxy. Humans have always known how to stand their ground. Hours later, as the Valiant approached Xeraxian space, Captain Davis gave the order. Engage ghost drive. The massive human warship vanished from normal space, slipping between the gaps in reality, heading straight for the heart of the Xeraxian Empire, a single ship about to change the course of galactic history. The USS Valiant appeared in the middle of the Xeraxian home system, like a ghost becoming solid. Alarms blared across the entire Xeraxian fleet. Their sensors had detected nothing until the human warship was already among them. On the Xeraxian command vessel, Admiral Ketvak jumped from his rest platform, scales bristling with anger and surprise. Impossible, he hissed. No ship can bypass our sensor net. Back on the Valiant, Captain Davis watched with grim satisfaction as 50 Xeraxian ships scrambled to form a defensive pattern around their home world. Open a channel to their command. Ship, she ordered. Let's give them one chance to do the right thing. Lisa Ward nodded as she established communications. Channel open, Captain. Davis stood tall, her face appearing on view screens throughout the Xeraxian fleet. This is Captain Amy Davis of the Earth vessel Valiant. You are holding our diplomatic team against all galactic laws. Return our people. You have 1 hour. She nodded to Ward, who cut the transmission. Lieutenant Carter looked up from his tactical display. Captain, they're moving to surround us. 50 ships against our 1. Good, Davis replied calmly. That means they're not watching their diplomatic center as closely. In the ship's launch bay, Security Chief Greg Martinez briefed his small rescue team. 6 men and women in black combat suits checked their weapons and equipment. The Valiant will keep their attention, Martinez explained, pointing to a small model of the Xeraxian Diplomatic Center. We slip in through this maintenance tunnel, locate our people, and extract them before the Xeraxians realize what's happening. On the bridge, Lisa Ward's console beeped. Incoming transmission from the Xeraxian flagship, Captain. The main screen lit up with the image of Admiral Ketvak. His reptilian face showed contempt. Human, Captain, he said, his translator making his voice sound metallic. Your bravery is noted but misplaced. One ship, no matter how advanced, cannot stand against the might of the Xeraxian Empire. Davis smiled slightly. Perhaps you should count your ships again, Admiral. The alien's eyes narrowed in confusion. I don't need 50 ships, Davis continued. I only need 1. Return our people and we leave peacefully. Continue to hold them, and I will show you why the Xeraxians were right to fear humans. Ketvak laughed, a harsh sound like stones grinding together. Your diplomatic team will make an excellent example to the galaxy of what happens to species who do not know their place. Your single ship will make an even better example. The transmission cut off. Davis turned to her weapons officer. Target their 3 nearest cruisers. Disable their engines only. Targeting, Captain, the officer replied. Railguns locked. Fire. 3. Metal projectiles accelerated to incredible speeds, streaked from the Valiant toward the Xeraxian vessels. Their shields, designed to stop energy weapons, barely slowed the physical rounds. Each projectile punched through the engine sections of the targeted ships. The Xeraxian cruisers drifted, power fluctuating but crews alive. They're in disarray, Captain, Carter reported. They didn't expect us to disable rather than destroy. Send the message again, Davis ordered. Same terms. They have 55 minutes remaining. In the diplomatic center on the Xeraxian homeworld, Ambassador Frank Miller felt the slight tremor as something impacted in orbit. He exchanged glances with his team, their faces showing the first hint of hope in days. Someone's come for us, he whispered. Outside the building, a small shuttle landed silently in the shadows. Its door opened to reveal Martinez and his team, weapons ready. Let's move, Martinez ordered. We have 50 minutes to find our people and get out before the real fireworks start. Back on the Valiant, Captain Davis watched the Xeraxi Admiral. Ketvak slammed his fist on the command console. 3 of his best cruisers floated dead in space, disabled by weapons that should not have penetrated their shields. All ships, target the human vessel, he ordered. Full power to forward batteries. On his main display, the human warship sat motionless, seemingly unworried by the 70 Xeraxian vessels now surrounding it. More ships arrived every minute as the Empire mobilized its full might. The human captain has either great courage or great foolishness, said his second-in-command. It matters not, Ketvak replied. Their ship will be atoms soon enough. Across the galaxy, word spread quickly about the strange standoff. Representatives from a dozen species gathered around viewing screens, watching events unfold. The Talarians, long oppressed by Xeraxian rule, watched with particular interest. A single human ship challenges the entire Xeraxian fleet, whispered a Talarian elder. Perhaps there's hope yet. On the Valiant, Lieutenant Carter monitored the growing Xeraxian force. They've positioned ships to block every escape route, Captain. As expected, Davis replied calmly. Status of Martinez's team? They've entered the diplomatic center. No contact yet with our people. Davis nodded and turned to her weapons officer. Prepare for evasive pattern Delta. Let's show them what this ship can really do. Inside the diplomatic center, Security Chief Martinez and his team moved silently through maintenance tunnels. Years of studying alien architecture had prepared Earth's military for this moment. "Life signs ahead," whispered one of his team, checking a small scanner. 6 humans, 2 guards. Martinez nodded and signaled the team to move forward. They reached a junction where they could see into a large holding cell. Ambassador Miller and 5 other humans sat inside, looking tired but unharmed. "Cut the power to this section," Martinez ordered. 30 seconds. In orbit, the Xeraxian fleet opened fire. Streams of energy weapons converged on the Valiant's position. "Now," ordered Captain Davis. The human ship moved in a way the Xeraxians had calculated to be physically impossible for a vessel of its size. The Valiant twisted and rolled, engines burning bright as it slipped between enemy ships. The Xeraxian fire hit nothing but empty space. Admiral Ketvak stood frozen in shock. "How? Our targeting computers predicted." "The human ship is not following standard evasion patterns," his tactical officer interrupted. "Our computers cannot predict their movements." Inside the cell block, darkness fell suddenly. The Xeraxian guards looked up in confusion, their reptilian eyes adjusting to the darkness. That moment of adjustment was all Martinez's team needed. 2 quick shots with stun weapons, and the guards collapsed. Martinez rushed to the cell door, overriding the lock, with a device designed by Earth's best engineers. "Ambassador Miller," he said as the door slid open. "Security Chief Greg Martinez, USS Valiant." "Time to go home, sir." Miller's tired face broke into a smile. "About time, Chief." In his private quarters, Ambassador Miller had managed to steal a Xeraxian data crystal. He handed it to Martinez. "This contains information about their defense systems," Miller explained quickly. "They underestimated how much human hearing can pick up. I listened while they thought I couldn't understand." Martinez pocketed the crystal and led the diplomats toward their extraction point. Back in space, the Valiant continued its impossible dance through the Xeraxian fleet. Every volley of enemy fire missed as Lieutenant Carter implemented battle strategies that confused the Xeraxian tactical AI. "Their attacks are becoming less coordinated," Carter noted with satisfaction. "Their computers can't adapt fast enough to our movements." Captain Davis allowed herself a small smile. "Launch countermeasures. Let's give them more to worry about." The Valiant released dozens of small drones that mimicked its energy signature. The Xeraxian sensors suddenly showed multiple human ships where there had been only one. On his flagship, Admiral Ketvak watched in growing fury as his perfect formation fell into chaos. "What kind of species are these humans?" he demanded of no one in particular. His second-in-command had no answer. Nothing in their centuries of galactic dominance had prepared them for humanity's approach to warfare. The battle was just beginning, but across the watching galaxy, the balance of power had already shifted, and fleet regrouping. More ships were arriving from other parts of the system. "Status of Martinez's team?" she asked. "They've landed successfully," Carter reported. "No detection so far." Davis nodded and studied the tactical display. The Xeraxians were forming attack patterns exactly as their historical records showed they would. "Predictable," she murmured. "That will be their downfall." The Xeraxian ships moved closer, weapons charging. The lone human vessel faced them, seemingly outmatched, but unafraid. Throughout the galaxy, other species watched through long-range sensors as humanity made its first military stand in the stars. News of the lone human warship battling the mighty Xeraxian fleet spread like wildfire through the galaxy. On planets large and small, beings of all species gathered around communication terminals, watching with wonder. "They move like nothing I have ever seen," said a Tellurian scientist, eyes wide as he watched the Valiant slip between enemy ships like water through fingers. On the bridge of the Valiant, Captain Davis remained focused despite the chaos around her ship. "Martinez, report," she said into her comm. Security Chief Martinez's voice came through clearly. "We have the package, Captain. All 6 diplomats secure, moving to extraction point now." Good work. We'll keep their attention up here. A Zeraxian? Cruiser moved to block the Valiant's path. Davis nodded to her weapons officer. Show them our modular weapons, she ordered. The officer pressed a series of commands and the Valiant's weapon ports reconfigured. What had been railgun launchers seconds before now glowed with energy weapons. Firing adapted phase cannons, the officer announced. Beams of energy shot from the Valiant, perfectly matched to the frequency of the Zeraxian shields. The energy passed through as if the shields weren't there, disabling the cruiser's weapon systems. On his flagship, Admiral Ketvak watched in growing horror. How did they adapt to our shield frequency? He demanded. Unknown, Admiral, his science officer replied. They seem to be changing their weapon systems during battle. Impossible. No species can reconfigure weapons that quickly. In the engine room of the Valiant, engineer Pete Harrison worked frantically at his station. Sweat poured down his face as he rerouted power through the ship's systems. Captain, he called through the comm, I have an idea. Our drive core generates a specific energy signature. If I modify it correctly, I can create an electromagnetic pulse. Will it hurt their ships? Davis asked. It will temporarily disable their systems without harming the crews. Davis thought for a moment. Do it. Harrison smiled and began the modifications. Human engineering had always favored adaptability over perfection. While Zeraxian technology was more advanced in many ways, it lacked the flexibility that humans had built into their systems. In the diplomatic center, Martinez and his team led the rescued diplomats through back corridors. Ambassador Miller moved, with surprising energy for someone who had been a prisoner. The Zeraxians have been suppressing other species for centuries, Miller told Martinez as they ran. They control all major trade routes and restrict technology sharing. Sounds like bullies who got too comfortable, Martinez replied. They reached a small courtyard where their shuttle waited, still undetected. Let's move, Martinez ordered. Our window is closing. On the bridge, Captain Davis watched as Harrison's modifications took effect. The drive core of the Valiant pulsed with blue light, then released a wave of energy that spread outward. As it touched each Zeraxian ship, their lights flickered and died. Temporary systems failure across 80% of their fleet, Lieutenant Carter reported with satisfaction. We have a clear path to extract our shuttle. Davis nodded. Send the signal to Martinez. Tell him it's now or never. Across the galaxy, representatives from dozens of species watched as a small human shuttle broke atmosphere from the Zeraxian homeworld. The Zeraxian defense platforms, affected by the same pulse that disabled their ships, failed to fire. On a distant world, the leader of the Tellurian Alliance turned to his advisors. Contact the humans, he said quietly. It's time we had a new ally against Zeraxian rule. On her bridge, Captain Davis faced a difficult decision. Her original mission was simply to rescue the diplomatic team. But the Valiant's actions had changed the political landscape of the entire galaxy in just a few hours. Captain, Communications Officer Lisa Ward said suddenly, we're receiving messages from 7 different species. They all want to speak with Earth representatives. Davis looked at the tactical display, where the disabled Zeraxian ships were slowly regaining power. It seems we've started something bigger than a rescue mission, she said thoughtfully. Much bigger. The shuttle carrying Martinez and the diplomats approached the Valiant, while across the stars a new hope spread among species long dominated by Zeraxian power. The galaxy was changing, all because one human ship had dared to challenge the established order. The Valiant shook violently as another Zeraxian blast struck its shields. Red emergency lights flashed across the bridge. Shields down to 30%, Lieutenant Carter reported, his voice steady despite the danger. Captain Davis gripped her command chair as the ship rocked again. Status of Martinez and the diplomats? Their shuttle is 2 minutes from docking, Lisa Ward answered from communications. But the Zeraxians have targeted the docking bay. They know what we're doing. The recovered Zeraxian fleet had returned. With a vengeance. Over 100 ships now surrounded the Valiant, their weapons focused on the lone human vessel. We just need to hold out a little longer, Davis said. She opened a channel to engineering. Pete, how's that wormhole coming? Engineer Harrison's voice came through filled with static. Almost there, Captain. Science Officer Grant and I have the calculations, but we'll only get one shot at this. In the shuttle bay, Martinez and his team prepared for a dangerous docking. The shuttle rocked as nearby explosions buffeted it. Hold steady, Martinez told the pilot. Just a few more seconds. Inside the shuttle, Ambassador Miller studied the data crystal he had stolen. Captain Davis, he said through the comm, the Zeraxians have a critical weakness. Their flagship's shield generator has a design flaw. A targeted pulse at their rear quadrant could disable their entire command network. Davis looked to her weapons officer. Can we make that shot? Not from our current position, the officer replied. We'd need to get behind the flagship, which means going through 50 ships, Carter added grimly. Davis thought for a moment, then smiled. Or under them. She opened a ship-wide channel. All hands, prepare for maximum thrust. This will get rough. The Valiant suddenly plunged downward, diving below the plane of the Zeraxian fleet. The unexpected maneuver caught the aliens off guard, their fire passing over the human ship. In the vast darkness of space, 3 new ships appeared at the edge of the battle. They were sleek vessels bearing the markings of the Tellurians, the Axoni, and the free worlds of Gant, species that had long suffered under Zeraxian rule. Captain, Ward said excitedly, I'm receiving transmissions from the new arrivals. They're offering assistance. Tell them to target the Zeraxian support ships, Davis ordered. We're going for the flagship. The shuttle carrying Martinez and the diplomats finally docked with the Valiant. As they rushed onto the ship, Ambassador Miller went straight to the bridge, still clutching the data crystal. Captain, he said as he entered, there's more on this crystal than just shield frequencies. The Zeraxians have been hoarding technology from across the galaxy, keeping other species deliberately primitive. Davis nodded grimly. One more reason to end their dominance. The Valiant shot forward, now accompanied by 3 allied ships. Together they punched through the Zeraxian line, heading straight for Admiral Ketvak's flagship. Targeting solution, acquired, the weapons officer announced. Ready to fire on your command. At that moment, Harrison's voice came through the comm. Wormhole generator ready, Captain, but I must warn you, it's unstable. We'll have 30 seconds to enter before it collapses. Understood, Davis replied. She looked at her bridge crew, then at Ambassador Miller. Let's make this count. Fire on the flagship, then full speed to the wormhole coordinates. The Valiant fired its specialized pulse directly at the weak point in the Zeraxian flagship's shields. The massive alien vessel shuddered as its shield grid collapsed, followed by its weapons systems. The Allied ships are providing cover fire, Carter reported as the Valiant raced toward the coordinates Harrison had calculated. Space in front of them began to warp and twist as the experimental wormhole formed. It was beautiful and terrifying, a swirling vortex of blue and white energy. All ships follow us through, Davis commanded to their new allies. The Valiant plunged into the wormhole first, followed closely by the Allied vessels. Behind them, the Zeraxian flagship broke formation to give chase. The flagship is following us in, Carter warned. Davis smiled grimly. Just as planned. As the last Allied ship entered the unstable wormhole, it began to collapse behind them. The Zeraxian flag. 1 month after the battle in Zeraxian space, the USS Valiant returned to Earth. Not alone, but accompanied by ships from 7 different alien species. The skies over Earth filled with vessels of all shapes and sizes as representatives came to meet the species that had changed the galaxy in a single day. In the grand meeting hall of Earth Command, Captain Amy Davis stood at attention beside Ambassador Frank Miller. Before them sat the leaders of Earth's united government, and beside them, the alien representatives who had journeyed so far. The diplomatic team has returned with more than just their lives, said Admiral Wilson, addressing the assembly. They have brought us new allies and a new place in the galactic community. Ambassador Miller stepped forward. The data we recovered from the Zeraxian systems has been shared with all species represented here today. It confirms what many suspected. The Zeraxians have been deliberately suppressing technological advancement across the galaxy to maintain their military dominance. The Tellurian representative, A tall being with silver skin nodded solemnly. For 3 centuries, my people have lived under Zeraxian control. Now, reports from our homeworld indicate their grip is failing. Inspired by the courage of one human ship, 12 planets have already declared independence. Captain Davis listened with a mixture of pride and concern. What had begun as a rescue mission had sparked a revolution across the stars. We did not seek to destabilize the galaxy, she said when invited to speak. We sought only to recover our people and defend ourselves. But we will not turn our backs on those who now look to Earth for support. In the days that followed, Earth revealed what many had suspected. The Valiant was not alone. A dozen more ships of similar design sat in Earth's orbital shipyards, each with different specialized capabilities. Not a vast fleet by galactic standards, but enough to make potential enemies think twice. We built these ships for exploration, explained engineer Pete Harrison to a group of fascinated alien engineers. But humans have always understood that exploration requires protection. In the command center, Lieutenant John Carter shared tactical data with military representatives from the allied species. The Zeraxians relied too heavily on established patterns, he explained. They never adapted. Humans have been adapting our entire history. It's what we do best. The Zeraxian Empire, meanwhile, faced crisis after crisis. With their flagship destroyed and their military secrets exposed, subject worlds rose up in rebellion. The grand empire that had stood for centuries began to crumble in weeks. They became complacent, Science Officer Olivia Grant observed as she reviewed reports with Captain Davis. They thought their technological advantage would last forever. A mistake we won't make, Davis replied. We have much to learn from our new allies. On the final day of the diplomatic summit, Earth officially joined the newly formed Galactic Alliance, not as a junior member as the Zeraxians had once demanded, but as a founding power. The once mighty Zeraxian Empire was invited to join as well, but as equals, not rulers. In the garden outside the meeting hall, Captain Davis found a moment of quiet. She looked up at the stars, now filled with new meaning and possibilities. Security Chief Martinez joined her, his expression thoughtful. When we left Earth, I never imagined we'd change the whole galaxy. Davis smiled. One ship in the right place at the right time. And the right crew, Martinez added. Together they watched as the diplomatic teams finalized the new alliance agreements. Humans moved among aliens with growing confidence. No longer newcomers, but respected partners. What happens now? Martinez asked. Davis thought for a moment. We continue to explore. We learn from our new friends. We help rebuild a galaxy where no single species dominates the others. And the Valiant? After repairs, we'll be back out. There, Davis said, her eyes on the stars. There's so much more to discover. Across the galaxy, the story spread from world to world. How a single human warship had challenged an empire and won. How a species new to the stars had shown courage. That inspired others. How the balance of power had shifted in a single day. The galaxy would never be the same again. And humanity was just getting started. IP, larger and slower to maneuver, was caught half in and half out as the wormhole closed. A blinding flash of light filled the view screens as the wormhole sealed itself, cutting the Zeraxian flagship in two. The Valiant and its allies emerged in empty space far from the battle. All ships accounted for, Carter reported with relief. The wormhole is closed. Davis sank back in her chair, exhaustion finally showing on her face. Set course for Earth, she said quietly, and let's welcome our new friends to the neighborhood.